Николаевич,
4. Да, наемник.
птичка полетела к вам.
Птичка к нам полетела.
Да, одна.
Разведчик или большая?
Не видно за тучами, высоко сильно.
Все, понял, принял.
Ага.
Объявите наверх.
The apparent downing of that Boeing 777 is sparking outrage across Europe.
Not an accident or a disaster, but an act of terrorism.
And a stark reminder tonight that eastern Ukraine is still an active and dangerous war zone.
And yet there is no one here trying to work out what happened. No one here to take responsibility for this.
On July 17, 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 was shot down over eastern Ukraine. All 298 passengers and crew on board were killed. Since then, we've learned that it was shot down with an anti-aircraft system stationed in eastern Ukraine. We know it was fired by separatist rebels in the area, and we know it was supplied by Russia. But what we didn't know is which separatists are linked to the shootdown. Now, after almost a year-long investigation and analysis of dozens of open-source documents by Bellingcat, we do know. To understand who played what role in the shootdown of MH17, Bellingcat first needed to establish what the front lines looked like at the time and which groups were operating in the region. This is what the eastern Ukrainian region known as the Donbass looked like in the summer of 2014. On one side, Ukraine's government forces. On the other, Russian-backed separatists. One such separatist group was known as the Besler Group, which controlled a small area near the front lines and had a role in spotting MH17 as it flew over eastern Ukraine. It was led by a man named Igor Besler. Here, he can be heard in a recording released by Ukrainian security services.
Птичка к нам полетела.
Да, одна.
Разведчик или большая?
This conversation supposedly took place at 4:18 on July 17, 2014, just 2 minutes before MH17 was shot down. The man he was speaking to is labeled by his call sign, Naumnik, in the recording. We now know that Naumnik is actually a subordinate of Besler, Valery Stielmak, a militia commander. There are a couple of ways we know this. First is his online social media presence, where he uses his call sign as part of his profile name. The other way Naumnik can be identified is from his unique voice. Here he is speaking in an interview where he asks Besler to return to eastern Ukraine.
И я знаю, что они мне спину прикроют, и я их не отступлюсь от них. Не видно за тучами, высоко сильно.
Stielmak's role in the downing of MH17 is significant. Based off the timestamp of the intercepts released by the SBU, we know that his report to Besler about spotting the plane came in minutes before the Buk missile launcher was used to shoot the plane down. The other important group that we need to look at here is the GRU-DNR, or the main intelligence directorate of the Donetsk People's Republic, the head of which is Sergei Khumery Dubinsky. Dubinsky's identity as Khumery and as a former Russian GRU officer has already been verified by previous Bellingcat reporting. He and the GRU-DNR were instrumental in transporting the Buk missile launcher, which we already know likely originated in the western Russian city of Kursk because of a previous Bellingcat investigation. Once the Buk arrived at the Ukrainian border, the GRU-DNR were responsible for escorting it and its operators to where it would eventually shoot down MH17. To figure out which separatists likely aided this transportation, Bellingcat looked at the conversations between Dubinsky and two of his subordinates, Gierza and Krot.
Слушай меня внимательно только. Значит, сейчас за Мотелевским кольцом, вот библиотекарем созвонишься, будет стоять, вот ты понял, что, да?
Да.
Алло.
Да.
Берешь туда...
In this SBU intercept, Dubinsky is heard speaking to someone simply labeled as DNR terrorist. We don't know who that is. But Dubinsky tells him that someone named Gierza will join him in guarding the Buk missile launcher. That's important. We can figure out who Gierza is by a trail of digital breadcrumbs left online. They include forum postings, public recordings dug up by activists, and screenshots posted by Gierza himself, where he accidentally outs himself. All of it points to a man named Oleg Pulatov, a top leader of the GRU-DNR. To figure out the real identity of whoever is behind the callsign Krot, we follow a similar process and start with an intercepted phone conversation.
Далее.
Да, Лень, ты слышишь, это самое. Это получается за Снежным блокпост последний перед Степановкой. Налево. Правильно я сориентировался?
Вот ты в Степановке должен уйти направо, через поле идти на этот, нахуй, Снежное, да, блядь, ебаное.
Ну да.
Вот иди на Снежное. Там я тебя
Понял.
дальше сориентирую.
Like with Pulatov, we can figure out who this Leonya is by following his online trail. This includes an SBU conversation where somebody identified as Krot is speaking to Igor Strelkov, another leader of the GRU DNR. The voice of both Krot and Leonya sound similar.
Чтоб отработали по 198,3 высота, и буду я ее брать. Вот ты в Степановке должен уйти направо, через поле идти на этот, нахуй.
But perhaps the biggest clue to Krot's identity is an online forum posting from Dubinsky, where he says Krot's real name is Leonid Harchinka, a GRU DNR commander. Another intercepted conversation with a subordinate with the call sign Rizan helps reveal Harchinka's role in returning the Buk missile launcher to Russia after it was used in eastern Ukraine.
Нет, я не в том районе, я в другую сторону.
Да здесь боец потерялся с этой зенитной установки, свой экипаж проебал, блядь.
В какой установке?
С Бука.
С Бука?
Да.
А где он, блядь?
Вот на блокпосту стоит.
Бери его сюда, блядь, и вези, я буду в Снежном его ждать.
Based off of this and other recordings, there's evidence that Harchinka and Pulatov, under the command of Dubinsky and Strelkov, were involved with the transportation and care of the Buk missile launcher that shot down MH17. The identities revealed in this report are new. Their connection to the deaths of almost 300 people in 2014 is important, but it will be up to an official investigation to determine their full culpability. And even with an indictment, many might still escape accountability because of one factor: Russia.
Are you saying this was not a Russian missile? This was not a Russian army missile?
Нет, конечно. Конечно, нет.
Russia's clandestine role in eastern Ukraine has almost guaranteed its pushback on any conclusion that officially links it to the shootdown of MH17. That means the odds of seeing Russian-backed separatists held accountable are slim.